This is Monique, and ready for another edition of Radiogunk, and our guest today at McCoys Pub on 9th Avenue between 51st and 52nd. So it's our first kind of remote. Actually, this will be the second time I'm doing a remote. The first time was, in fact, with Jackie. So we have Jackie Jokeman, who's back with us, Jackie Martling, actually, and Steve Grillo.
What up?
And Arm actually came in to visit me all the way from wherever the hell he lives in Long Island. So I'm very excited.
Nice to finally see you, Yolanda. You look as lovely as you did when you did Uncle Vanya.
So far we heard Howard, and we heard Vinny Pastore, and
Nick
we heard
DiPaolo.
Artie. Oh, I didn't hear Nick.
Yeah, Nick was in.
Yeah, but you're here live, so that's what matters.
Who's Vinny Pastore?
Big twat.
Okay, but Monique, while it's fresh, Marbles, Jackie. This is where it started. Okay. I'm driving around. It's 2004. Howard hadn't gone to Sirius yet. I'm listening to you on Brewer Unleashed. And you were a guest twice, and you were phenomenal. And that's when I realized you were better rock on tour and bon vivant than you are a joke teller.
I had so much fun with because his father was there. At least once, who was just a rip. And we just had a lot of laughs. And I didn't know Jim until... except passing in the night until I did a show. I did a show, and then they had me back pretty quick because it was great fun.
Is he a nice guy?
Great guy.
He was so nice to me, and I've never heard anything negative about him, you know. But I as far as I've heard people say that he's the funniest guy in the world on stage, and other people say that they don't get what he's doing on
It's not for
stage.
everybody. He's like heavy metal comedy. It's a very specific genre of fan. But he's a super talented impressionist, great storyteller, and you were on there, and... How did it go? You said, well, at that point, Howard had just signed with Sirius. So you looked at Brewer's studio, and it was like a NyQuil cup. And you're like, I can tell by your studio, Howard took all the money. And you're like, what? Brewer tried to laugh it off. He wasn't going to go down that road. And you go, well, we call Howard Marbles. Because if there's 20
Howard
marbles, he had to have 19 of them and distribute that one to the rest of the staff.
I don't remember.
Which is a great line. You got to own that.
It's.
You dopey bastard.
I'm sure. I think it would have taken a lot more than 19 out of the 20.
Could you do half a marble?
So we were looking at the contract actually because somebody sent it to us when he had the lawsuit for more money during
All right, I'm not sitting here and talking about Howard Stern for 2 hours.
No, it's just that it's fresh on our heads.
I thought we were doing it like we all came to McCoys to hang out and break balls and laugh. We're going to turn it
Yeah, we're just getting started.
I just got to get this off my chest so that I can be finished. Because
Well, you're promoting your book.
Don't do anything with those chests.
Now let's take him out of the shirt.
I just okay. So there's a couple of things. You know, there's so we have this website where obviously they're all a bunch of like disenfranchised Stern fans and stuff like that, and they all have questions for you. I mean, you can't help it. I'm sorry, it's such a big part of your
But
life.
big Jackie fans collectively.
Your
horse-tooth
questions
Beths.
for me?
Yeah, questions for you.
I used to look at those sites, and everybody's claws
People
around
love
it.
you.
These are the people
man.
going to buy your book, bro.
Yep.
Exactly.
What's the name of the book, Jackie?
About a Stern.
Right, but you
joke,
can't talk
man.
about.
No, it's not. That's what...
The joke.
It is. That's the title of the book.
About a Stern.
It took me like 2 days to figure that out. And then finally went, oh, it's a boat reference. Damn.
Oh, goodness.
But it's not. It's
Thank
not
you.
a
I just
horrible-
got that.
It's not an attack thing. You know, it's stories, and I'm sure he's not going to be thrilled with it because it's my version of stories. You know.
Yeah, but
No,
your version.
No, you didn't do that. Me and Fred did that. You know?
Yeah. Well, the truth needs to come out.
When are you doing the audiobook?
Fairly soon. I already got paid for the audio. I already got half the money for the audiobook, and I'm reading it myself. They want me to read it myself, which is
Well, you should.
it's going to be fun. But
I know, but don't digress. That's the problem.
Everybody says that it's really, really hard, and they want you to read. You know, when I'm doing my if I'm reading that book, I'm going to read one sentence and think of 40 things. You know, so I got to have goggles on. You know, barn sorry.
Does the book go back into your childhood, or does it start when you were with Howard?
You know,
Gymnastics?
I've been writing stuff for the book forever. Like I actually started my autobiography in 1975. It was at the time, you know, I grew up in the days of John Kennedy, you know, and he had a very, very famous book called Profiles in Courage that every kid in America owned. So my first book was called Profiles in Discourage. I hadn't gotten across the street after standing at the light for about 45 years. And then I started writing. And the first forward I wrote to the book is I'm sitting here at JFK waiting for my plane with Gilbert Gottfried. We're going to do a TV show. on the Superstation in Las Vegas, and it was like 1994. So I've been accumulating all these stories, right? So I got so much. I literally have enough in my computer for a second book. I mean, literally could hit the button and do the second one. So they're all modular stories. You've seen my stuff. It's like a story about this, a story about that. So it's like 30 or 40% about me, and then 60% about me on the show. And I have that same thing again. But I was just telling somebody last night, it was Sophie's Choice after Sophie's Choice. What do we pick? What do you not pick? There's hardly anything about my mother. There's nothing about my bands. There's hardly anything about comedy.
Because there's some great stories you told me about when you were a kid. Like what always bugged me out was Jackie graduated high school. He stole his father's car and drove to California.
And none of those bullet points are even in there. But everybody that's read it said that they really like the way my writing flows, and it's really easy to read. So I know if enough people like it, I can do more and more and more. And because they're all fun stories, and they're all like, they all kind of have punchlines, and
Yeah, but the first thing Grillo ever told me about you before I even met you was that even though Jackie does like a lot of these one-liners and things like that, he's like amazing in the long format.
That's what I was telling you when I heard him. When I told you.
You know what this looks like? That I walked in here and said I refuse to do a podcast about Howard Stern, and now I've completely made. I didn't mean for it to be about me. I thought we're just going to be breaking balls.
Come
about
on,
everything.
no, yeah, well, we're going to get to that. It's going to flow.
About you, what do you think of me?
Well, you got a scarf on, Jack. You might as well talk about it. Barbados. Is that Barbados?
Want to hear the most disgusting joke I ever heard that I can tell to a 5-year-old, but I can't tell on stage because it freaks people out?
Disgusting that you can tell to a 5-year-old. Go.
And I can tell it on the radio.
Okay, go.
But I can't do it in my act. A lady calls a doctor and she says, I got diarrhea. Can I take a bath? And he says, if you have enough.
That's disgusting.
All right, no more joke.
Is there a story that's going to come out that's going to be like revealing or something that no one ever heard of?
No, I don't think so. No. There's a chapter called The End. And it has every syllable about the negotiation and the exact amount. I put in the amounts of money. It's the exact gospel truth because everybody's going, well, Jackie walked away from $100,000. Jackie walked away from $7 million. Nobody's ever, It's funny because I'd run into people and they say, well, they'd start talking. I'd start talking back and they go, well, that's what you said 15 years ago. I'm like, well, because that's what happened.
That's what happened.
It's not like I got a different version now.
Yeah, that's going to be a big reveal then because no one really knows. Because the only thing they know is Howard's version.
Right. So anybody,
that's the only version.
It's not going to be a reveal to anybody that knows me or has ever talked to me and paid attention or believed me.
Yeah.
But to the people that don't know.
Well, that's the part I was trying to get at before because, I got a hold of the initial contract from the Sirius years and, it dawned on us. We really realized that all the money, all of it came out of Howard's pocket and then he was reimbursed for it. So he knew everybody's salary for including cast, characters, lesser players. Everything comes out of that one.
He needs
Stop.
a human.
Yes.
Stop.
I had David review it.
Every penny. If I had a nickel for every, I don't want to know what anybody's making. It was like
exactly.
Pay no attention.
Right. So we used Tom Chiazzano basically as a buffer between all of you.
Anybody that really knows anything knew that.
Now, someone had recently posted something on my Facebook page. It was an old clip.
Oh, with hair?
Yeah, with hair. Back in the day. I think I was in the borderline around there. I didn't listen to the show a lot, because I was running around. But it was right before I got called into the studio, and Howard went and said, and he literally had the balls to say this. He goes, "Oh, yeah, Grillo's trying to get some more money from the play he's in because we don't pay him. Why should I pay him? I get all the money."
And I was like,
life. He goes, we don't have enough money because I get all the money.
And you're thinking to yourself, it's bad enough that that's how it is and that's what you think. But don't say it out loud.
Yeah, you said it out loud.
Well,
I was walking along with Rodney Dangerfield in 1980 in Fort Lauderdale at the height of spring break.
Your hand is getting very close to my ass.
Easter break, the height of spring break.
Just lost a knuckle.
Endless women in bikinis, college girls in bikinis. And this is the funniest thing he ever said to me, but he wasn't trying to be funny. He just turned to me. He said, "Don't you wish you could just fuck anybody you wanted?" It's the same thing. Well, yeah. I'm not sure it really needs to be said out loud.
Yeah.
He actually said that. I said, that's the funniest one.
Fun fact. Okay. Fun fact. John actually was
I know what's coming.
a contestant in the FMEs.
It was nominated against Jackie and Rodney. It was best celebrity fight. It was like circa 99, 2000. and it was Howard against Dice, Corey Feldman against his father, me against the Baldwin brothers, and you against Rodney for
Against
marbles.
Rodney.
The old. I paid him in jokes.
Because he yeah.
Well, I don't remember actually fighting with him at all, but
It was
that's
Howard's
one
fight.
thing that's in the book. The entire explanation of that ludicrous, the ludicrous way that I still get emails every day. You owe Rodney $3,000.
What? Yeah. Dig him up. I'll give it to him.
I'll tell you a great story. It's not in the book. It'll be in the next book. Hopefully, people will forget.
Jack, you still on Lotus Notes?
Oh.
You still on?
So, Rodney.
Oh, there goes Jeff Schick now.
Rodney's in.
Great guy, Jack.
We're gonna do Stern trivia.
Yeah.
My dad worked for
Nobody has
IBM.
any idea what you're talking about.
Yes, they do. You didn't know what you're dealing with.
Our fans do. You have no idea what you're dealing with. Exactly. Okay, go ahead.
It's not a Howard story. Like, keep on with
It's
your.
okay. Well, we want less Howard stories, more you.
I want to ask you about your stand-up
You can't
days.
make me. You can't make me.
I can. I can and I will.
Wait, so tell the story.
No, it would have been funny, but you guys slowed me up.
Oh, come on.
I'll circle back.
Even Roy's rolling his eyes over there.
All right, here's a question. Here's a question from my
I'm in
website.
the middle of a story, and you're like,
You're
Jeff
always in the
Schick,
middle of
Jeff
a story.
Schick and Lotus Notes. Shut the fuck up.
We call him Big Mouth online. All right, do you want to swing back to it? Because I have a
Can you
question.
tell us your favorite Matt Dillon story real briefly?
He has no idea what you're talking about, sweetheart.
Go ahead, Jackie.
Okay, according to CelebrityNetWorth.com, you're worth $2 million. Is that fairly accurate?
No, I have that on me.
Do you still keep in touch with Dominic Barber, or what the hell ever happened to him?
Dominic is staying in the Grey Gardens room at my house.
Yeah. Can he fit?
Is it really staying?
In fact,
No.
now it's the Grey Garden room because he ate the other garden.
Steak for two for one.
No, wait, seriously, what happened to Dominic? He went off the
hope
deep
he's
end,
still
right?
alive. Everybody knows everybody. Somebody his name came up and
He showed up at Kumia's house unannounced and knocked on his door and tried to get a mea culpa with him.
Really?
Yeah.
How long ago
I
was that?
think Anthony, at his house on Long Island.
Yeah.
I think Anthony told me about that. He was so good and so generous to us.
I got to stay at his house in Puerto Rico.
Very fun. I don't think it's even. I wonder if it's in my book. But the
Shelter Island.
Beth, Howard's wife, put a nail in my coffin
Why?
without of course, without knowing it.
Of course.
Nancy was working, so I drove out to Shelter Island by myself, and I got there, and I jumped in the pool with everybody, and Howard, I guess, just had started dating.
Was he already?
And Howard goes,
He was already
"Beth,
living in the city, right?
Beth, you know Jackie?" And she goes, "Oh yeah, everybody loves Jackie." And I'm like, "Oh boy, there's a nail in my coffin right there." Mirror, mirror on the wall.
Yeah. Who's the
I
horse
don't
face of them all?
I don't mean she liked me at all. I mean she just of course I know.
She didn't know.
The
She
three
didn't
times
know.
I met her, the three times she was not nice at all to me.
There are other people in the room beside you, Howard.
Do you think actually that
I don't know where Dominic Barber is, and I wish I did because
I know.
I feel like
Did he go to jail? Like I feel like he lost everything. He went bankrupt. Like
His saga is crazy. I tried to follow it. There's like 10 bullet points to it. He got arrested 3 times and domestic abuse and arrested and petty theft.
and they left his house.
represent a girl in divorce and then marry her, and then she
As generous as he was, it was right after the Private Parts book party, and he took us all down to Little Italy to a really nice fancy restaurant. It was called Il Molino. I'll never forget it.
I know him, Molino. As a matter of fact, that's where I met him.
And Mary Jo
with Jackie Mason. He used to hang out with Jackie.
Mary Jo and Joey Buttafuoco come, and it's just like really just right after Mary Jo. And Jake, go ahead. You finish the story, Jackie.
I was just going to say, when you're done, I got a great...
No, that's the story.
Because Mary Jo, Amy shot one side of her head off.
Yeah.
Believe it or not, the Buttafuocos were old fans of mine because they literally lived 2 doors away from the guy that owned Governor's Comedy Shop on Long Island.
Really?
Pico, right?
Wherever. And so he knew that.
Bayville. Everything's Bayville.
So they somewhere in the South Shore. So Joey and what's her name?
Mary Jo.
are walking around in Stump the Joke Man T-shirts before before they knew anybody. And so Dominic says, "Come on, we're all going down to Little Italy." So we all go down, and there was a lot of us. There was
like 20 of us.
Long single table, like 20 or 30 people. Mary Jo and Joey was sitting there, and we're all drunk as hell, and I'm having a great time with Mary Jo, and I'm telling her jokes and having fun. So I sat her on my lap. But I guess I might have the side switch, but I think the right side of her head is what got blown off. So I got her on my lap, and I'm telling her jokes. And as I'm telling her jokes, she's turning around saying, "What?" And I'm telling her jokes, she's turning around saying, "What?" And all of a sudden I said, I really wish that girl had a shot you on the other side of your fucking head so you could hear my joke. And everybody's faces went white, and she was like,
You know what the name of her book was,
You were
right?
sitting right
yeah, I was
there.
right there. I was like, oh my God, Jackie, no. But did you know what the name of her book was,
"Yeah,
right?
I got a half a mind to leave you, Joe."
No. Which would have been good, which is almost as good as the real title, which is Getting It Through My Thick Skull.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Wow. Living with a sociopath. Yeah. But you
Now,
know
I
what?
would write that down, and Howard would say that, and then he might wind up making billions of dollars.
Do you think you could work on the current
I don't
Stern show?
listen to the show.
Oh, I know, you haven't,
know
right?
nothing about the show. I listen. If there's people sitting in a room, is there room for another funny person? Of course.
Not on this show.
So would it work? Of course it would work.
Yesterday he actually
I'll tell you,
canceled his show yesterday for the first time ever. I know, isn't it weird? It was weird.
I swear to God, every time I have ever walked into that room, it has snapped back to the show. When I used to call in once in a blue moon, with Howard and Fred and Robin all there, and I call in on the phone, it's instantly the everybody takes their position.
Yeah.
I mean, it was an undeniable thing. I don't know if I put this in the book because there's no real way to describe it, but when they were talking about having everybody on that last week of terrestrial,
Yep.
and they said, come in the second to last day. And I was like, I really don't want to do it. And Gary said, come on, mobile. It's going to be fun. It's going to be a love fest. Because I'm thinking they're going to fucking take out 6 years of crap on me.
Yeah.
So I said, all right, I'll go. And I worked out that morning. I wanted to make sure I was really in good health in my head. Because I had no idea what to expect. So I walked in, and I sat in the guest seat, not my seat. And it was just so cherry. Because I sat down there, and it was so comfortable from the word go. It was so funny and so much fun. And fucking Gary walked in. I probably have told you guys this a million times. Gary walked in and sat down about 3 or 4 feet to the other side of me. And I looked at him, and I turned my head. And Howard caught me looking at him.
I know where this is going.
And he said, look at you. And I just said, I'm so entertained. I said, we just started laughing because I looked at Gary. And I was like,
You can't help yourself. You can't help
I
yourself.
said, look at those lips just trying to get over those gums. It's like a Sisyphusian task. Oh, we're fucking dying. Oh, God. And that doesn't get old. That doesn't
Never.
That shit never gets old.
I
That
was
shit
just thinking the
never
same
gets
thing.
old. Gary's a very big deal now. Gary's
He's in an Adam Sandler movie. Wow.
Yeah, exactly.
Is he really?
Yeah, that new Netflix Adam Sandler movie that's out is Adam Sandler plays this talent agent that is not that good, but he really loves his clients. But Gary's one of the people that are like they're interviewing about. Oh, tell me about Sandy Wexler.
It's
He
so
goes,
funny.
Oh, he's a nice guy.
It's so funny because Richard Christie was in Guardians of the Galaxy, and he ripped him a new asshole for being in that movie.
What?
Yeah.
Ripped him a new
We
asshole.
just killed to get our lights on
Gary?
there. Yeah, no. Richard Christie is in the new Guardians of the
Did Gary
Galaxy.
give him a hard time about it?
No, Howard.
did.
Because
Benji's in the new Sharknado. Too.
oh yeah, Benji's in
That's okay,
Sharknado.
but that's okay.
Monique, did you see Richard's part in Guardians?
You know what? I didn't realize he was in it until somebody had posted it after
It's
I saw
a
the
second.
movie.
He's on a scaffold, and the goons are running down the scaffold, and he goes, down there!
So cute. He was so cute.
But the funny thing is, like Howard made it out to be like,
You should be
they're
doing it.
using Richard to get publicity for the film.
That's yelling at me for, using my name because
Yeah.
I'm on the show to get a hotel room.
Richard worked with the director at Troma like years ago. He was the director's a friend of his. Like
It was so sad because Richard then turned to him and said, "Gee, I can't believe you can't just be happy for me for
Yeah.
once."
yeah, good for him.
But that's not serious shit.
Why can't you just be happy
That is
for
just
me?
not. I'm telling you, he doesn't mean that serious.
Really? I hope so.
I hope so.
He can't possibly.
I hope so. Somebody has a question. Did you have any hand in ghostwriting private parts of the book?
Most of it. I did the Japanese translation.
Wait, wasn't that
Jackie Ratso Martling.
The only thing I contributed to Private Parts of the book was Howard said, we have a picture of you in the office, and I'm sitting there at a chair, and he said, can you come up with a caption for the picture? And the caption is, Jackie the Joke Man killing time between weekends. It's pretty good.
We never really went into it last time when Grace and I were at Jokeland. I feel like you were really kind of marginalized in Private Parts of the movie, and I just never understood why.
I was kind of marginalized.
Well, you were.
There's no intro. There's no setup. You just
Well,
there.
here's the thing.
And
If you
your
think about
role's
it,
not explained.
But which I think, and I have a different opinion about this because, at the time period, Jackie wasn't around. The fact that he even put him in the movie was. He didn't necessarily have to because he wasn't there. At
but it was a transition
you
to
didn't come until
WNBC.
K-Rock, right?
No, you were at NBC, right? At least part time.
Yes, it's a whole long story. When you were there, they were making the movie without me in it. And then they threw the whole thing out. I think there's a chance Fred wasn't in the first one. I don't know. I don't know either way. But I know how uncomfortable it was for months because everybody was going to the production office. It's not like we don't talk. And they're going to the production office and getting interviewed on tape and blah, blah, blah. One by one, everybody's going to the party, and I'm not invited.
Why is
then
that?
Then all of a sudden, well, how are they going to show the Howard Stern show with me putting up notes? What's Jackie's function? What are they going to do? Say, just have me sit there? And,
What's Fred's function? I mean,
everybody knew your role at that point. You weren't fooling anybody. That smoking mirrors bullshit.
Not. To this day, they don't know. And I'll tell you one thing that it really burnt me, and it was so. The whole fucking situation was always so tense. They weren't going to use me in the movie, so then all of a sudden they're redoing the movie, and Rory calls me up and says they're offering you double scale. Now, if you're a cop in the background, you get a scale. And if you yell stop to the traffic, you double scale. Major motion picture, playing my own self, and I got double scale.
Integral part to the fucking movie.
Which is too much of an insult. But Rory said, do you want to go and break balls? I said, no, because if we say that's not fair, that gives them a perfectly good excuse to replace you with somebody. So,
like the fake Scott the engineer.
That was horrible.
Patch him in.
But the truth of it was, the reason I was on the show was I had sent my albums. So if Howard had said, oh, this is our new member, Jackie Martling, look, he sent us these albums, it would have been so cool.
Totally
for
integrated.
Time,
yeah.
Because there was LPs which would have time-stamped it. And imagine what,
Yeah.
if they saw my albums, and that's why they called me up, people would have been like, oh, maybe we should give them a listen,
Yeah.
In all of 30 seconds to shoot that scene, how much would that possibly have taken to incorporate that into the film? Nothing.
What's your theory on it, though, Grillo?
Well, I'm going to tell you a little bit of Private Parts trivia that nobody probably knows, but the guy who played the fake Scott the engineer probably made more than most of the actors that were on that show because he got put on hold. And he got paid for 4 weeks without ever having to show up on set. And he made so much money for doing one scene. Because they were shooting around him, and they kept putting him on hold. So when they put him on hold, he couldn't do any work. So they had to pay him.
Explain to me, though, why that person also was a replaced person. Why wasn't Scott on that?
You wonder why? Because here's the bottom line. This is a major motion picture. He's not an actor.
Yeah, neither is Nicole Bass.
That doesn't make a difference. But she played her role. Okay, it wasn't necessarily Scott. They were serious.
But
they wanted actors. They wanted
are.
professionals.
Scott should have played Scott.
But none of them
listen,
are.
of course they should have. Howard should have said that. But that's not the studio's mentality.
But none of
Steve,
them
Howard's
are.
acted twice and played himself twice in Larry Sanders and Private Parts. That's it. He's not Daniel Day-Lewis.
Yeah, but he's the hook. He's playing himself. So,
Don't
but
talk about his nose. It was very odd, and I got paid so little that when the residual checks come, they're teeny. I literally get 15-cent checks from when I did The Hack, because it airs in Austria.
So in Private Parts, did they not even introduce Jackie?
They said new member, or whether they said, here's our guest today.
Here's our guest. I think that's what it was. It wasn't that you were integral to the show, which kind of it's crazy to me.
I'll tell you something. Anything that happens is a template for what goes on all the time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it doesn't happen. Like if you buy steak and it's $4 a pound, it's not going to be $2 tomorrow. It's going to be $4 tomorrow. Whatever happens, happens. So I never been really in a movie, and here we are sitting at a table read. because when we first had a meeting, they said, all right, say who you are, what you do, and tell an anecdote. So it was Ivan Reitman and Len Bloom, the writer. And so when it got to me, I told a great story about the time I was stuck on the highway with a flat tire, and they came to the rescue, blah, blah, blah. So we get done, and Len Bloom comes up and says, God, what a scene that's going to be. Cinematically, that's going to be unbelievable. I said, boy, you really don't know where you are. And he said, what are you talking about? I said, that is never going to get near the movie. I said, because that scene, it's about me. He says, no, it's about the power of Howard. I know that, and
exactly.
you know that.
Yeah.
He don't know that. So I said, I got cassettes of the first days I was on the radio show. And he said, you're kidding. I said, no, I'll give them to you. So I gave Len Bloom a couple of cassettes. And then however many weeks or months later, I got it might not even have been an email. It was, Jackie, you don't know me. And I'm not going to say who it was, but I have a copy of the first draft of the Howard Stern movie.
I would love to see
Would
that.
you like to see it?
Don Imus.
And so, and this isn't the first movie. This is the movie with me in it.
Yeah.
So he sends it to me. I took out these pages are somewhere in my garage, and I don't know. It's like 2 or 3 pages of, here's our new member, Jackie Martling. He knows every joke. We're going to take some calls. What goes click, click, click? Did I get it? And I go, oh, that's Ray Charles doing Rubik's Cube. And Robin says, wow, this guy's good. They take another call. And Howard's like, wow, you're amazing. And there was like 3 or 4 jokes. And I'm like, this will never see the light of day. And it was gone before, that was gone. But it literally was on the page, right? So here we are at the table read. And I got that one little scene. We're all sitting there. Now, nobody has said a word about anything. So what's protocol? Do you fuck around? When we're sitting around at the Stern Show meetings, we're throwing shit.
Yeah.
So we're sitting around, it's a table read, and it's we're only going to do one table read, so it gets to me, and I'm like, I'm the joke guy. I got to fuck around, and it said, and what do you have? I have pussy too,
Yeah.
So I said, when it got to me, I said, I have pussy. In fact, I wrote it sloppy. I got sloppy pussy, and everybody went wild, right? Nobody said a word to me. Never said another word. It's months later, and here we are on the set of a major motion picture, which couldn't be more intimidating. I said to somebody, I can't believe that they let in all these listeners to watch the taping of the filming of the movie. And they said, what are you talking about? I said, look at them all. They're all working. So in your mind, if you have any brains, like click, clock, click, clock, click, clock, union, God knows what this is costing. So we're about to start the scene, and nobody has said a word to me about what to say. Now, do I say what's on the page, which I assume I have to? So I'm there, and I said it like it was on the page. Cut. And Danny comes over and whispers. Not even, hey, why don't you do the line that you thought, You remember what you said at the table that day? I said, well, of course. He said, why don't you try that? So I got sloppy, and that's...
Yeah.
But wait, I have a question for you.
So it was one of the biggest laughs in the whole thing.
Oh, absolutely.
I need more on this because it's driving me crazy. So the first iteration of that movie, you were a more integral part of, or
no, I didn't exist.
Okay, so you actually didn't even become a part of the movie until
they threw out the whole thing, and then Howard ran into Ivan Reitman. And Ivan said he wanted to do it, and Ivan came aboard, and him and Danny Goldberg started from square one all over.
Jackie, let me ask you this. We've been mulling this over about private parts. The DVD, and these days with a Blu-ray, there are absolutely no extras.
Hi, baby.
No director's commentary, no special edition. Why do you suppose that has been nixed and blocked? Is it Marbles? Is it Allison? There's no extras.
He didn't even mention it on the 20th anniversary or 25th anniversary.
They told me that they wanted him to do a 10th anniversary release, and he didn't want to do it because it was a love letter to Allison. That's what I heard.
Right, that was my theory. That was my... You can't...
Oh, yeah, it rubs it in Beth's face, that's why.
But also, there's a confidentiality.
It's history,
Yeah, it's not history when he goes home and the door shuts, and then she goes, well, why do I have to hear about this bitch?
I can't even imagine it would be that bad. I mean, you got 3 kids together.
You would have to revisit the whole thing, and wow, look at that. Those people with him from the beginning.
Well, and it was a love story to Allison.
Right, but the irony is what led to his divorce is the love letter to Allison. That empowered him to get the F-pad on West 67th in Columbus.
Right. The whole gang, it was a gang. You know, and he was
So was it- so was it-
So bizarre.
further away from the whole.
So was it weird for you though when everybody would go off to go film and then there's Jackie?
No.
Okay.
You're missing the point.
Okay.
What it was they talked about it. Originally, Howard said, we're going to write a movie, and then Fred and Jackie are going to punch it up, and we're going to have fun, blah, blah, blah. And then he started talking about, I got guys coming over, sitting poolside, and we got the greatest script. We threw it away and fired that guy. We got the greatest script. It's funny, it's sad, it's emotional, it's wonderful. We threw that away. And then all of a sudden, there was no talk of it. And then all of a sudden, one by one, people were walking in wearing baseball hats with a big H on them. Because they were going down to some production office and they were interviewing you. I don't know if you went.
Yeah, I did.
To introduce, who are you? What do you do?
Yeah.
What's your function on the show? Blah, blah, blah. And Stuttering John said that they had pulled him into the green room, said, listen, you need to sign this if you want to be in the movie. And just basically said, we get everything, you get nothing, blah, 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 blah.
That's the way
and
it always goes.
Buckwald or Richard, whoever it was, said to John, and please keep this to yourself. Because everybody's not a part of this. Now I don't know whether it just meant me or whether it also meant Fred. You never have these discussions. So slowly but surely, everybody's got a hat with the H on it, and then the whole thing falls. It was so funny because
Jackie's got
next
no
year,
H hat.
the next year, at the Stern birthday party, the knickknacks they gave away
With the hats.
with the H.
Yeah.
So I had no idea except what you know how it was that you didn't ask anybody.
No.
Because I didn't want to put anybody in the spot. What's with the movie?
You know what?
and what's going on?
Everybody always asks me, goes, how much did Robin make? How much did Jackie make? I said, there's no way in hell anybody ever spoke about salary
Did you know-
whatsoever.
did you-
It was so taboo.
Did you know what they made on the movie?
No.
That never got out. Howard's salary on that never
You know
got
what
out.
I think too is I think that Howard thought that movie was going to make a shit ton more money than
Exactly.
it did.
45 million.
You know what it went
could
against,
have.
Steve? It opened against Donnie Brasco.
Nobody had any idea whether it was going to make $1 million or $10 billion.
Right.
Nobody knew if everybody's going to go. Remember, it was an unknown. I mean, that movie could have made $400
Well, first of all,
million.
not for nothing, he did a shit ton of press for that movie.
Oh, God,
he
that's
was
what I'm
on
saying.
the cover of
But,
everything.
Steve,
He was on every show.
People
Great.
actually calculated, taking all the radio and all the amount of publicity, they came up with
Should have made
something.
150 million.
Jackie, you have the supposed #1 radio show in the country. He's got an infomercial, 5 hours a day talking about this movie from 96
20
through
million
96.
people
I know.
are listening.
So how? And in addition, that lends more credence to what you said about your negotiations.
I feel like the movie, though, itself, it wasn't quite what the fans were expecting. I feel
No.
like it wound up being more of a love story
Yeah.
than it was
He tried
a
to sap it out.
bowdy
What?
kind of
Yeah, lesbian
Guys,
movie.
lesbian
What?
No,
symbiote.
it was wonderful because it was perfectly calculated. It wasn't a pay-per-view with girls squirting the
Right.
jizz out of their nipple.
Agreed, but maybe that's what fans were expecting.
Nobody wanted to bridge the gap. I totally.
Did you just say girls squirting jizz out of their nipples?
I did. I did hear that. I did.
I'm sorry, I can't let that one go.
I did hear that. Did you get writing credit, Jackie, on Private Parts?
No.
That's-
I didn't deserve it, but that was a funny line.
So I'm going to talk about the book a little bit. So what actually was the impetus for this actually finally getting done? Because I know you've been talking about it for years, yet it's never really come to fruition. So how did it come about?
I started and stopped so many times.
Fine.
And then a friend of mine had a guy that was very interested, and I went with him. And every time I've gone to start it again, I'd write more. And this guy was so excited. Well, actually, when I was doing Jackie's Joke Hunt, there was a guy who did Pat Cooper's book that was going to help me. And he did this. We put together this incredible proposal, and he said, "This is the best book proposal I've ever seen, that I've ever done or ever read." He said they're gonna fall all over it, and nobody was interested. And then I did it with this other guy, and he said he hadn't been excited in 50 years, and now he's all excited, and he couldn't get anybody interested. And I had a couple of meetings, and those people were interested, but then they weren't. And
You ever go to Judith Regan?
she's an old friend,
Yeah, right.
And
I had to go drop off something for her office one day, and she asked me to give her a massage. I totally thought I was getting late.
Engage me, Grillo. Engage me.
And then there was a guy who came to me, a friend, a very nice girl, hooked me up with this guy, and this guy wanted to meet with me. And I said, but it was like all of a sudden I had two people interested at once. Mel Berger at Simon Schuster, at William Morris, rather, was all of a sudden he was excited, and Rory was excited, and blah, blah, blah. And then all of a sudden, this guy, Peter Steinberg, called me up and he said, we're still interested. Are you still interested in doing your book? And I said, yeah. And he found a publisher, and they loved it, and I loved it, and I met with the guy who helped me edit it. And
How long did it take you to do?
well, the whole thing was almost done. You know, it was completely done. It was basically
It's been a work in progress,
taking
right?
stuff out of it. And
But did you have to take out, like, is there a minimum or a maximum for a book
yeah,
that they
it's 300
expect?
pages, and I had 600.
bad.
So so I got enough for a second round.
That's got to be tough.
Excellent.
But which one's which story
I
to
know.
pull
None of
out?
the private part stuff is in. There's hardly any
When
stand-up
you say
stuff.
private parts, is you talking about the
I'm
movie,
talking
the
about
book?
the movie, the whole making of the movie.
Okay.
That's not in there. And I mean, there's tons and tons and tons of stories that aren't in there because between the two books that I finished, I've never in either of two books mentioned Oleo Records. I never mentioned the Jetty. Like I'm looking the other day, we have a whole 1 hour video of when we launched the Jetty, which was one of the great stories of all time.
But there should be a whole chapter on the jetty.
Exactly.
Of course
The
there
jet-
should,
It's all about the jetty.
But there's no room.
The jetty's more famous than I am.
I'm telling you, I told my Barbara Klein, my girlfriend, I just said, Barbara, I'm having nightmares about what's not in the book. And she said, well, you can't do that. You know what you did. Like just like when you do a stand-up set and you kill. You're like, oh, I didn't do this joke. I didn't
Yeah.
do it. Well, fuck that.
But how'd you do the Sophie's Choice of what to pick? Like, seriously.
I just did my best.
Did you run it past a bunch of people? Or did
Well,
you
yeah,
just...
No, because there's no way for anybody to make that call,
Yeah.
Well, you know what? Actually, the guy that was editing with me, he said, dude, that can't come out. Les Paul can't come out, and that story of you getting out of the service can't come out.
What
Why?
story with the
What
service?
story about the service?
The whole story of which is every story is an epic because they span decades and they're so much fun, But they're so stupid. I tell you, when you're writing your autobiography, it's like this is so interesting, and then 5 seconds later you're like, who the fuck
cares?
cares about
It's
this?
like taking pictures of fireworks. Wow, what a great picture! Then you get the pictures back. I go, I wasted fucking all this film on taking firework pictures.
Me and Robin Quivers actually bonded on that. I said, how hard was it? She said, yeah, because 1 minute it's all, completely compelling, and the next minute, like, who gives a fuck,
Well, that's true, and you know what? The beauty is that you're doing a book that's actually all true,
Yeah.
as opposed to what they did.
the science fiction that was Private Parts.
That's one thing, like it or love it. Every syllable in my book is completely.
When have you ever
gospel.
been a liar? Everything you've
No,
always
everything
told the
is
truth.
So what's the game plan for it? Are you doing like a book tour? Are you doing like what's
The
happening?
Friars Club quoted me, I think, too much, so I might do a book party at the Friars anyway. You know what? I don't mind spending money because I'm not doing this to make money. I'm putting some of the money's going back to this pink tie charity. I might do. I want to do a couple. I want to do a big party. Like my last joke before the party was at Caroline's, and it was an epic party. It was just so much fun. All the midgets were there.
It's not a party unless there's midgets.
It's like it's Dan Foreman and a midget and Don Buchwald and Robin Quivers and Paulie Shore in the same picture.
So, since you've been a friar and since you've been doing roasts, I want to talk a little bit about the guy who happens to be the president right now, Donald Trump. So, give me, do you have any insight on him at all, as a person?
A piece of shit.
Oh, bravo. Okay.
Was one of the least friendly people when he used to come on the show. Nobody else was even alive, and and every story, all the people I know that know him, he's just, he's low. He's a low guy.
Yeah.
He's a low
He's a
guy.
lying low piece of shit. He's a spoiled kid who was handed all the cookies and all the ice cream, and I don't care what anybody says, that things don't change. That's him.
Howard's relationship with him is kind of weird too, because Donald basically, because of all those tapes, I mean, he's done years and years. All right, I want to talk to you about one last thing, because I did try to get him on. I texted him, I called him. I tried to get Stuttering John on because he's been making a little bit of a storm on Twitter, and I sent that to you.
He's not in a good place, I don't think.
I told you I sent an email to John, but I CC'd you, Ganji, DePace, and everybody, because I just want people to know that I reached out to him.
You tried.
And he hadn't responded in any way. It sounds like bullshit, but I'm concerned for the guy, because it sounds to me like he's very, very thin-skinned, which means he's waking up in the morning
And boozing.
Drinking.
And before he starts drinking, he's out of his mind. And
It's scary, actually.
because what happened was that I wrote to people and said, "Can I use your picture in the book?" And I didn't even write to Howard, but I wrote to Robin. She didn't say anything. Gary said, "What's the book about?" So I didn't even answer. And Fred said, "Fine." And John said, "Well, do you trash me in the book?" And I said, "Well, to tell you the truth, me and Artie had fun with you in the forward." And he goes, "Well, if I've trashed it all, I don't want my picture." And I wrote back to him. I said, "John, people are going to ask you to sign the book. If your picture's there, there's going to be a place to sign. Don't cut off your nose." He never responded. Then he blocked me on Twitter.
I just want you to know, I asked the lawyer about the whole picture thing for your book. And, the biggest thing is if you took a picture of others, anybody, like if it's your camera and you took the pictures, you own the copyright to it. End of story. And so he said, that means you own the copyright. So, yes, you can use it, but you might need to be careful about using it to market or advertise the book. In fact, if you took the picture, like Grillo had all those pictures, you can use them in your book. They're your copyright. If you took the picture, it's yours.
It's too late now.
Yeah. Almost, it's done. It's being printed. It's
as we
going.
speak?
It's I don't know if it's physically in the printer right now, but it's it's done. It's a done deal.
So did Artie do the forward?
Oh yeah, that's all done.
That's great. That was nice.
That was really nice. And now, do you think, by any stretch of the imagination...
What happened? Artie said he would do the podcast, and truth be told, I knew I couldn't call up every three days and say, "Did you do the podcast?"
Yeah, right.
I mean, did you do the forward?
Did do the
yet?
forward.
So I said, "Listen, why don't I just come and you record it, and then I'll type it out?" Because he's doing me a huge favor. So he said, "Oh, that'd be great." So I go to his apartment, and that day, John had declared that he was running for senator. And Artie started talking about it. And Artie goes, "Yeah." And he said, "I haven't chosen my running mate yet." And I said, "Artie, listen, turn on the microphones. We got a podcast. I'll extract the forward out of it." And so we did a great podcast. And I guess John got all crazy about it.
And you know what I just thought?
And Artie said to me, I did this podcast the other day. He said, "You didn't say anything." He said, "I was doing all the talking."
Wait, that's what I just came up with in my head. Like, he's going to attack me and you, but he's not going to attack Artie, who's the one who really advocated the whole thing. He's afraid of Artie. I think that's why he's not going to do it. He's going to go after me or you because we're the easier target.
Who's afraid of Artie?
John's afraid of Artie.
Yeah, I'd say so. Yeah,
Because he knows he'll rip him a new one. That's why. To be honest with you, I hope it does great. I hope it's wonderful. It makes a ton of money, and he's happy. I can't wish ill will on the guy. I had a lot of fun with him. He was a big part of my life.
I love John.
So here's what he said. Here's what he said on Twitter. "Tune into my new podcast talking everything from Artie, Jackie, Grillo, Jim, and
Why
more."
is it-
So somebody says to him, "Wait, you whine about these people trashing you, but then you want to draw more attention to it by trashing them."
Yeah.
So anyway, I texted him and I said, "Jackie's going to be on. Do you want to come on and clear the air?" Jackie's been such a mensch about just letting things go, and he's like, "Yeah, no thanks. That's not going to happen."
Yeah.
And that was the end of it.
Okay, have a fun time.
All right, I have some more questions for you. Is Jackie
8
banned?
inches, which is a little
you
too
wish.
wide for a lot of girls.
You wish. Okay, is Jackie banned from the Sirius building?
I was there 3 days ago. Why would somebody say that?
They're
because
asking
Artie's
Grillo
banned. Artie cannot come to Sirius on days their show is on. So Monday through Wednesday, Artie is not allowed in the Sirius. He only does.
Maybe I'm banned. I mean, no, I've done.
Pat Cooper's
I've been
banned. Well,
Pat
Pat
Cooper's
Cooper's
all different days. I've been in Jerry Cooney's show every different days. Bennington's show.
Speaking of Bennington,
Opie's
Is it always
show.
on Thursdays and Fridays? Okay, here's another question. Is Billy West's importance to the Howard Stern show addressed in Jackie's book?
What do you think?
I don't know.
I don't know.
No.
There's a lot of things you know.
You were a good friend. You're still good friends with Billy,
Very
right?
good friend. Yes, of course.
He is very funny.
Jackie, can you chronicle the Billy dissolution of the Stern Show in '95? Well, how that goes down.
I'll never forget the day that he quit because I'm a paranoid person to begin with, and I always think that
Really?
something's going to go down. So I saw Billy go into the office to talk to Gary, and then Billy left, and then Gary for some reason came in, and I was in the office across the hall, and he shuts the door, and I thought I was getting fired. And he goes, "You know what just happened?" And I went, "No." He goes, "Billy West just quit." He went into Mel's office and said, "I want to be a part of the show. I want to be 5 days. If you can't do it, then I'm leaving." And Mel Karmazin just said, "See you later."
See, you
Which
gotta
they
hate-
never
you
liked
gotta
each
hate
other.
Mel.
Their bad blood went back to Boston, didn't it?
No, Mel saved Billy's life.
Well, getting him sober.
Wait, what do you mean? Explain that to us.
Yeah.
Gave him a job and got him sober. But I never discuss this because I know it, the whole deal, but it's not my business.
It's not your place to talk about. Okay, I understand.
It was the same old thing, you know. We want you to do this, and we want you to do this much more for this much less. And sometimes people say no. Sometimes people ask for more money, and they say no, and they leave. That's America.
That's the nature of work,
Jackie,
right?
this guy is a force of nature.
Billy West?
Voice-wise,
Yeah.
comedy-wise, on that show. He's what we would put in the beloved state of where I don't know his soul. I don't know anybody
No,
that dislikes
and
Billy West.
but everybody knows
But
that.
Jackie, it's that important. He's the reason I started listening. His shit was the reason I stayed good. He was so phenomenal on that show.
The only
Supreme talent.
The only one to blame is Howard and Mel and
Right.
Tom.
So
and
how do you
well,
not-
then we're sitting here
Let me ask
talking
you-
about Howard and singing
How do
his
you not
praises.
fight for him? Then how do you? You're not going to find another Billy West. To this day, they haven't found another. How do you not
I
fight
hope
for
you're
him?
not talking to me. You mean, how does Howard not
Yes,
fight?
yes, of course I'm not talking about you.
Because it's more money out of his
Maniac.
pocket.
You know what? What you're talking about is Frank Sinatra saving Shecky Green's life. You know how Frank Sinatra saved Shecky Green's life? He said the guys who were beating him up, that's enough. All Howard had to do was say, give him the money.
And he
Yeah,
didn't.
and he didn't.
There was nobody for him to fight with because he was the one making the call. You know, it's like, what? So who's he going to go in and fight with?
Yeah.
And
There is
Howard
no
and
one.
all that time hid behind Chiasano saying it was Tom's choice that Billy couldn't stay. I mean, that's noted. He said it a million. That's Howard's take on it.
If you say you're a fan of the show, it's got to be pretty obvious that what he wants.
Oh, I knew that too. But
What he wants, he gets. You know. Oh, Tom, I really wish Billy could stay. Oh, I really wish we had the money for Jackie. Oh, I really
Yeah.
wish we had, you know.
But Jackie, what I'm saying, you're in the comedy business. Who's
there's no
better than him?
excuse.
Who's better than you? Why would you not do everything in your fucking power?
Because he's taking
to
money
hold
out of
on
his
to-
pocket.
How,
Of course.
No, it was nothing to do with money. Nothing to do with
Nothing to do with money?
Is it upstate? Was he threatened by Billy West as more popular than him with the fans?
Just who knows?
Can I tell
It's so bizarre. I can't
can
get my
tell,
head
Can I
around
tell
it.
my
I won't
favorite
get my
story
head
about
around it.
Jackie?
Yes, go.
Okay, so I'd never been to a wake or a funeral before because I was that lucky as a kid. I was
Gary's
probably like
dad.
20 years old. So the first wake I ever went to was Jackie's father's wake. And I was
Really?
terrified of going to a wake and seeing a dead body. And I'm there and I'm terrified in the back.
It still is.
I'm terrified.
traumatizing.
It's
I'm
horrible,
terrified in
right?
the back, standing in the back, and Jackie goes, "Come here, let me introduce you to Pop." And he drags me up to the fucking coffin.
Nice Jackie impression, girl. I like that.
That was a good Jackie impression.
and then-
Jackie impression.
And then,
girl.
and then the funniest thing was, his dad. Your dad was a fireman, correct? And everybody in there is all dressed in fireman blues, and it's a moment of silence. And Jackie goes, "Jesus Christ! I hope there's not a fire."
Because the fire is burning to the ground.
All right. On that note, let's wrap it up.
All right, let's wrap up this shit show. So Jackie.
Can I get one last thing?
Yes.
This has been bothering me for a
Yes,
long
my
time.
love. Go ahead.
Jackie, you were the quote creative consultant on Are You Hot? How did that come about? And what is the relationship with Scott Einzinger?
He's MIA right now.
Is he?
Yeah.
That was so funny because
What was-
everybody thought that me and Einziger came up with that show, and the truth of it is that I got a phone call saying, "Do you want to come out and work on a show? We'll give you, I think it was $10,000 a week for 2 weeks, and
Nice.
a car and first class air.
We'll
and
take it.
That's, accommodations. But the show was already completely booked, made, set up. They just thought there was an outside chance that I could maybe write some jokes for
Lorenzo Lamas?
the is that his name?
I don't know.
That's
Yeah.
him. That's him.
No, is that the son?
Oh, I don't know.
That's his son. Fernando Lamas' son.
He basically played the same role Howard did on AGT.
Exactly.
And they thought maybe it was possible that, but then as soon as I got out there, it was very apparent that there was no real way to accomplish that, and that guy wouldn't have had the chops to do it. So I basically
Lorenzo
made
Lamas has
20
the personality of a sponge.
I made 20 grand for being there, doing
Just to show
nothing,
up.
eating and having fun, and I didn't even go in and laugh. Or I did absolutely nothing and had nothing. I would say it if I did, but I had nothing to do with the creation or the thought of it. I don't agree that just the fact that that they used a laser pointer, that meant they stole the idea.
Everything's
but,
great.
Hey, that's our idea whether girls are pretty or not. Yeah, it's called a pageant,
Yeah.
But I never defended anybody because it was none of my business. But why they would have... why they wouldn't just call up and say, Scott, what are you doing? And have an argument. Like, supposedly, I wasn't around. I didn't know that Scott was in the helicopter with Howard and all that shit. We were best friends, and all of a sudden, persona non grata from bosom buddies. Like, how the fuck do you do that?
He successfully sued the show, Jack. Howard sued Are You Hot? And actually, it's one of the 50 lawsuits he actually won.
Yeah, he successfully sued, saying that was taken from him
I
directly.
think using your name in the credits, like paused it and said,
Exactly.
"Gee, that's my head writer."
Exactly.
Yeah. I don't know what he got from it, but he successfully
Doesn't matter.
sued-
He's as litigious as Trump. It doesn't matter. All right, so Jackie is doing a book called Bow to Stern, which I love
It's
the
called
name.
The Joke Man.
The joke.
Poland, Bow to Stern, and you can order at JackieTheJokeman.com. And I promise you, if you like the Stern Show at all, if you like me at all, if you like to laugh at all, I'd be very shocked if you didn't enjoy it. And I also tweet a joke every day at Jackie Martling.
Can we start a Let's Get Jackie Writers Guild residuals from Sirius for all the replays they play?
There's no
from
such
your
thing.
mouth to God's ears,
Yeah.
please. Never
Isn't
gonna
there a Writers
happen.
Guild? Isn't that part of it?
No.
No, it has nothing to do with it.
That would piss me off.
You're on
If
a
I'm
different
Jackie
planet.
and Artie, I am. You too, Steve. They spend entire days on
It's
you.
not gonna
You
happen.
get-
It's
you don't see
radio,
a cent.
man. It's the bottom of
He
the
gets
barrel of the entertainment
$3,000
business.
a minute for his show.
That's
You
great,
get-
and I'm still paycheck
Kiss.
to paycheck, so
People
fuck that.
have said to me, have you ever thought of making trouble because
not worth
if something horrible happens and they play my laugh,
Yeah.
that's
Oh,
making
they
me...
always
But
Yeah.
Anybody with any brains knows I'm not there.
Oh, can you
but-
trademark your laugh? That's interesting.
No.
I remember people used to call up as like fuming. Why is Jackie laughing? That baby dying was
I
not
love
funny.
that laugh.
And what's so funny is I always tell people that
Look at that class.
I got
Look at that
all the
Golden Girls
blame
class.
and I got all the credit, and meanwhile it's Fred that should get all the blame or all the credit.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's his genius.
Do you remember the chicken fucker?
What's that?
Someone sent a tape and they don't ask me. It was somebody fucking a chicken, and at some point when the guy's having
We just
sex
had somebody
with the chicken,
fucking a shark.
when someone, yeah, so it sounded like it sounded just like his laugh. And I remember going because there's a pile of tapes I had to go through, and I went and I ran it down to Scott the engineer.
That whole thing is my fault because I
What,
used to-
chicken
I used
fucking?
to sit there and in the very early days, and once in a while, Fred would go, "Yee!"
Yeah.
And finally one day I said, what is that noise you're making? He said, that's you. I said, what are you talking about? He said, you make that noise all the time. I
You
said,
didn't even realize it?
You're crazy. So one day I'm listening to a tape of myself at Jimmy's Comedy Alley, and I told a joke, and I was like, must have been walking back and forth across the stage between jokes, and I went, and I was like, oh. So I brought it like an idiot. I brought it in the tape and said, Fred, I heard what, and I gave it to him. And that was the first thing he took was the,
Yeah, right to Jack.
and then all of a sudden, when it got popular, he started taking all my sounds, and then he morphed to taking the laugh and put. And then
Wait,
I think the first
The
thing was
worst
the guy was-
tragedies.
The guy was having sex with a deer on the side of the highway, and he played me laugh.
Jackie, my cousin Anton got me into the Stern Show in the early 90s because of you
Yeah,
and all
totally.
those nuances. All those little things, Billy West and yourself. That's the reason I latched onto the show. Yes, you should look into it. It's not subtle. It's a very big thing.
I'm working on this for Jackie's. I am. I really am. I'm making this my mission. All right, so on that note, we are going to say goodbye from McCoys on 9th Avenue. So, Jackie, thank you so much for being on here. Grillo, as you know, I love you to death.
Love you
and
to death.
Johnny, thank you so much for coming in for this.
And if anybody's interested, I'll be at the Yankee game in the Legends section tonight.
Nice. Thanks for hanging with us tonight. Please join us for any discussion at radiogunk.com in the forums section. Follow us on Instagram or Twitter at Radiogunk. And don't forget to like this and subscribe to us and hit that little bell so that you know when we're going to have a new show. Thanks.